right. Good morning and welcome to Monday Morning Business Foreplay. I'm Coleen Stubbs, the founder of Simplified CEO Systems, and I help midlife entrepreneurs simplify their business so that they can lead with clarity instead of chaos. Most founders start Monday buried in noise, emails, urgency, competing priorities, and other people's agendas. High-level operators don't react, they reset, and this hour is designed to sharpen your thinking, strengthen your leadership, and give you practical moves that you can use immediately. Not someday, not theoretically, and not after another course. Each week, I bring in a different authority who's actively doing the work right now, not just talking about it, so you get real insight from real entrepreneurs. So go ahead and let's drop in the chat where you're joining from. Make sure that you utilize the chat. Put your LinkedIn in there, and then everybody save the chat so that you can connect with people who are on this call. And also share one thing that you want clarity on this week. So today's guest is Olena, and we are diving into how to grow revenue by doing less. Olena is going to be sharing with us her business process review. All righty, Olena, the time is yours.
Thank you, Coleen. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. My name is Olena. My business name is Actic Business Solutions, which I started 8 years ago. And I've spent over 2 decades now in small business, working for myself, working for others. And I've became like a database of all different tactics and processes that can be applied. But my main message that I try to spread around as much as I can is that we as business owners and entrepreneurs, we should and can create businesses that fit our lifestyle, that fit our priorities, and it needs to be based on what we want it to look like. This is the ultimate playground and the ultimate creation space where you can be who you are and make it profitable and live off of it, right? So while I tell you a little bit more about my why, I have a couple of exercises that we can do. And the first one is really popular, and you probably have done it before, but I would like you to do it in the now with your resources and priorities now, is listing your daily tasks and activities that you spend your time on. You know, answering emails, answering phone calls, checking feedback, anything that you spend your time on every day. If you can make a list of all those tasks and put a $ next to it. So basically evaluating how much value each of those tasks have. And this is something I do with almost every of my clients, and it always helps discover some things that you can stop doing, you can delegate to someone, or you need to keep. And the second part of that exercise is truly and honestly, is the task that you're looking at, is it something that you truly enjoy doing? Another part of filtering out and simplifying your daily tasks and your activities is keeping things that you truly enjoy. And many people I come across, they delegate, for example, their social media management, but they actually really love doing it themselves. So the value of the task and the level of enjoyment that you have of doing the task.
Can I ask a question for clarification?
Yes.
So when I'm putting these down, I'm putting like, clearly I do email, I do networking, I do partner collaborations, I do all the things. And you said put a $ in front of it. Do you want us to put a value with that? Like how exactly where does that value?
You can do, so the value is based on how much it moves the needle for your revenue, that specific task. So if you, let's say if you answer emails, do those emails actually move you towards sales? If you spend time on improving your website or tinkering with your website, do that actually help you sell more?
Okay. And so are we just putting just the dollar sign and not
You can
actually
do
the value?
you can do $1, $10, and $100, meaning that task is absolutely necessary and you have to have it to make profit.
Okay. And then put, and what did we put? Buy it if it's something that we love or if
You
it's
can
something.
just put a check mark next to things that you really enjoy doing. And like you wake up every morning and you look forward to doing them. For me, for me, doing financial reports is something I love doing. Like I love putting together end of month, end of quarter, end of year reports and um, presenting those to my customers. I know it's weird, but I made a whole company based on that. And it is individual. That's the whole point, is what makes you you? What part of service you bring to your customers that you really enjoy and brings the most fulfillment to you. Anybody else have any questions? So I've about 8 years ago in 2018, went through a huge reset um, and started my own company. Because as my mother told me, I've been playing meetings since I was little. You know, while everybody played with dolls, I was having meetings, I was writing reports and reviewing operations. I'm not kidding. I actually have a home video of that somewhere. And she reminded me that, it kind of got forgotten, or she reminded me then, because I spent, first 30 years of my life checking boxes that were based on everybody else's opinions and expectations. And it drove me to a pretty low point. I was completely exhausted, and time came when I have two kids, two girls, and they were about 4 and 2. And I looked at them and I realized that I don't want to set an example for them in the environment and the situation that I was. I didn't want them to think that burnout and battling yourself just for the sake of checking somebody else's boxes was okay. So I quit everything. And I mean, really everything. I slept for about 3 months and then I woke up and I started my company. And it started with a dear friend of mine who needed help with cleaning out his financials for his business. I walked into a room with piles of invoices and bills up to my waist. This is before everything was digitized. And I cleaned 3 years of his finances in 2 months. And that's how my business was born. For 8 years, it's been word of mouth. It's all based on recommendations from my customers. And I've been growing with my customers as well. So they start new companies, I'm involved. They grow their existing companies, I'm involved. Currently, I am managing 37 companies as a fractional CFO and CEO. And I'm able to do that basically because of these exercises, because I simplify as much as possible, leaving the core that is absolutely necessary for sales, customer experience, and operations. I train staff on processes which are created and systemized. So every process can be repeated by anyone other than me. and it's repeated on the same scale and with the same, losing my words here. The same way every time for customers. And strategizing, helping my customers grow with strategies based on processes. We're able to collect data of things that work and things that don't. So by tweaking little things and seeing how that reflects in their operations and sales, we strategize their growth. I've had customers who went from 500,000 revenue to now to 25 million with over 20 people on staff. I have a few customers who went about the same gap of revenue, but with only 2 employees, by being able to automate and simplify processes. So what it, and now when you look at your list, this gives you a good, should give you a good idea of things that you can filter out and gain the time that you spend on those things. You can take it back and invest more of that time into the $100 tasks that really move the needle in your business. Is that something you can see happening?
And then what do we do with the other ones you're saying we do?
So you can do several things. You can stop doing them altogether.
So if I don't like social media, I can just stop doing it?
Well, that's one of the options. Example of like tweaking your website constantly. You know, you can create your website and just have it and it will work for you. You don't have to constantly change everything on it.
I would agree with that. And I think that one of the things that happens when you do that is there's a huge power behind one and done. And I'm going to go up against everybody that says, no, you need to always be changing and pivoting and elevating and all of the things. One and done. Creating a workshop, create one and be done. Make sure it contains all the things. Do your research in advance, meet with somebody who does workshops, who's a pro at it. I would highly recommend Kimberly, but, and then take that information, get it in there, get it done. It gives you, I feel like it gives you the freedom to go back and edit. Like if you change topic or want to take a little bit of a different view of it, go back and do that. But one and done gives you that it's always done. You don't have to worry about it. So you're taking the worry and the anxiety and the burnout and overwhelm off the plate, right? Same thing with, and I teach this to my clients, with your email nurture sequences, like create one and done for Summit and then go in and clone it. Take 20 minutes then and edit it instead of taking 2 hours to create it. Just edit it and for another summit or something else, right? So I agree with you on that, that it's good to just have it done and quit playing with it.
Right, exactly. Invest the time to make it good. There's also value in, especially when you're just starting out, into having something out there for people to still see and be able to verify your existence with. But sometimes we're not 100% sure of what we're creating. But having a basic information out there and then while you're collecting data that you want to be on it, you finalize your offer, your services, then go back one and done, and it's there working for you. And we change every year. What I was doing 3 years ago is very different from what I'm doing now.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because I think everybody has a different system, and I would love to make this a little bit interactive. What's your system for your change? When do you do your pivot? Because I like to shop in the fall, and I I like to kind of shut things, I don't want to say shut down, but shut down on the production end, right? But I like to look at and reassess where we've been in the past 12 months. But I usually start this in October. So the past 12 months, how have things gone? Like start with how we were pivoting into 2026. How did that go? And then how did all of 2026 go? And then maybe make something that's more fitting for 2027, build that out October, November, December. Actually, probably November, December, because October I'm doing the assessment part, right? Build out anything different, edit it, that kind of things. But how does everybody else do that? Or do you not? Do you just do it every week? Or what does that look like? Kimberly, you unmuted. Do you have an idea?
Well, Carl raised his hand first, so I thought
Oh,
I'd
I
give him
don't,
first crack
why do
at
I
it.
don't see his hand? Sorry,
Hi,
go ahead,
Carl.
Carl.
Did you have a comment?
Yeah, sort of, kind of. I'm in a little bit different situation, but I classify myself as a workaholic. I probably need a 12-step program to stop that. But um, I made a decision quite a while back. If I don't enjoy doing every aspect of my job, I just don't do it. Okay. I do what I do best and try to farm out the rest. Because I mean, all the things have to be done. I can't eliminate any of them, but if I don't enjoy doing it, I I I just don't do it. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
You can stop doing them altogether, or if they still need to be done for your business, you find somebody to do it for you.
Yeah, I think anything you don't enjoy doing, you're not going to do well to begin with. So
Absolutely.
so
100%.
I mean, I'm also a business consultant, but I've told everybody if you have things that you just absolutely hate to do, number one, you're probably going to put it on the bottom of your list, even if it's something important. You can't ignore it. It still has to be done. But so, that's just my philosophy. That's how I do it.
Awesome.
I agree with you.
I would camp onto that. I actually I teach on this particular subject and I call it the road to joy, how to get on the road to joy. And road is an acronym. And it's all about loving what you do and then taking the rest and putting it somewhere else. So R stands for relish. If you relish it, like you love doing your website, you love doing your reports, whatever it is, like keep doing it as long as it's fun. And then one day it's not fun anymore and you got to put it in one of the other three buckets. So ROAD. O is for outsource. Pay somebody else to do it, or leverage, a relationship that you have, or don't have your kids take out the trash, or whatever it is, right? So outsource that, make somebody else do it. Maybe somebody else mows your lawn, cleans your house, something like that. A is for automate. You got to automate that stuff. I send emails every day to my list, but I don't send them myself. That's all automated, right? And D is for delete. That just you don't do it anymore. It's not necessary for your job to continue. And if it is absolutely necessary and you're about to hit the delete key, consider outsourcing it instead.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. And I would also add to that that one part we haven't touched on yet on this is that it's not just automate it, delegate it, get it off your plate. There's a process that goes with that that really elevates or has the opportunity to elevate your business and how you accomplish automating and delegating. And I would say after 37 years building 9 businesses, that the key is to find somebody who's better than you. First of all, you have to accept that you're not the best at it. Not only do you not like it, but you're not the best. And that's okay. I know a lot of entrepreneurs really get stuck in that part where they're like, I have to do it myself. I want it done
Yeah.
right. No, you actually don't have to do it yourself. The very best way is to find somebody, the person that you can afford that is the best at it. So I couldn't go hire Elon Musk to do anything. Okay. But I could find somebody who's scads ahead of me in
But
creating social media to
Elon
do.
Musk doesn't do everything either, right? Like the
This
most
is true.
successful entrepreneurs hire that out and have other people help them.
Exactly.
If you're the entrepreneur, like many of us started out, like I'm the only one who knows how to do this. It would take me longer to teach somebody than to do it myself. All those stories that we have going on. I'm here to tell you, entrepreneurship, even solopreneurship, it's a team sport. You got to have other people on your field with you.
Yeah. And you need to find people that are ahead of you in the game that are better than you, the ones that you can afford. And then as your business grows, you can afford even better, or those people hopefully are growing and shining more too. And what I say all the time is that if you take and surround yourself with 6 people who shine really bright in the area that they do, and you surround yourselves with that, you yourself, your business is going to shine so much brighter. So there's so much freedom and leverage available when you're hiring, delegating, automating to a better source. Carl, you have a question.
Yeah, well, also I'll lower my hand here. Um, the other thing I think people have a hard time doing is because they do it so well and nobody can do it as well as them. They got to get over that because nobody's ever going to do it as well as you do it. Okay. When you're hiring employees, I worked with a fellow a couple years back and he said, well, yeah, but nobody can do it the way I do it. No, they probably can't. Okay. They might be able to, honestly, but they don't think they can. And if you're gonna even farm it out, you got to understand that they're probably not going to do it as well as you do, but you got to accept that a little bit if you're going to survive this entrepreneurial type thing, And the other aspect of it is, as a business consultant, the reason why I started networking was because I know you all aren't going to believe this, but I don't know everything. I know it's hard to believe, but I started networking so I could surround myself with people that knew more than what I knew, because I can't do everything. And if I'm really going to service my clients, I have to give them the best of what I think is out there. So I started building an umbrella of people through networking that knew more than I did, or did things that I didn't want to do or didn't want to learn. So once again, it was doing what I do best and farming out the rest. That's all I want to say.
All right. And right before we go to Nicole, I wanted to say that, as a kid, I asked all the questions. Most kids ask questions around 4, 5, 6 years old. They're asking all the I did forever, asked all the questions. And my dad people would say, can you stop, or quiet, or, all the things. And my dad would say, you know what? She who asks the most learns the most. Keep asking, keep asking. And I had my grandson this weekend, we were driving. He says, there's something in the sky. What is it? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm looking. I'm like, oh, it's geese. That's a flock of geese flying. He's like, what's a geese? I'm like, it's a goose. He's like, what's a goose? I'm like, it's a duck. It's like a duck, but bigger, but they chase you. They're not nice like ducks. And so we had the whole conversation. And then afterwards he says, do I talk too much? And I said, no. He who asks the most learns the most. You keep asking, buddy. So I agree with you, Carl. Ask, 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 ask. Nicole.
Hey, I love this conversation, and it's really sparking a lot of questions and comments in LinkedIn. Yeah, you got to ask a lot of questions and you've got to delegate. This is so good, but that gets into that slide of micromanaging, right? Know enough to let go. But I think that's great. I just want to chime in and say, you've got Luke, Jean-Louis in here, you've got Islam in here, Dr. Jeffries in the chat on LinkedIn, Leanne's on here. I just want to mention these people. They're not just saying happy Monday, they're loving the automation and delegation, and just in here to say, hey, this is good stuff. It's thoughtful, critical conversation that we need to have. And man, start Monday right. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And I always forget to mention that there are people watching on other platforms. So we are streaming live to YouTube, to 2 YouTube channels, to Rumble, and to 2 LinkedIn channels, as well as I said at the beginning, this will also be put on Spotify. But we don't want to hold anything back. Olena, do you have anything else, or what's next for us?
I just have to say, Coleen, you've created amazing platform here. All the hard work, I know you started, but it's only been, what, a year since you started it? That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's been a fun run. Anybody that's done anything for a year kind of knows that. And I love what you do. So one of the things that you told me, Olena, about your business is, and I'm going to say it wrong, so I'm going to invite you to please correct me. You said you clean up their messes. Well, how did you say it? It was so relatable. So
Yeah, clean up the mess is usually what I say, but I don't know. I can't
was
think
it just
of it.
Clean up their messes? So you're doing finances and you walk in and you just
Clean up the chaos, maybe?
Clean up your chaos. Yeah, clean up your chaos. And so I think so many of us are taboo about the money thing. At least, in my world, my husband was raised very poor. I was raised very not poor. but raised like we were poor, even though we were really not. But I learned great money skills. And so I was able to translate those, bring those into my marriage, which was a good thing. But coming from where I come from, we didn't talk about money because it wasn't proper. My husband's family didn't talk about money because they would start fighting. So two totally different things. Now we're coming into the entrepreneurial world and people don't talk about money. How do we even start that conversation? How do we get comfortable with the conversation, Olena? For me, that was a real icebreaker when you're like, yeah, I just go in and clean up their messes. I just go in and clean up their chaos. I was like, okay, that to me says you already know there's a mess. And so that lets my guard lower a little bit. But what are your thoughts on, like, how do we get that conversation, get comfortable in having that conversation with you?
I think that's the main problem, is not having conversation creates the messes, because nobody knows 100% what it should look like. We all have CPAs, we all have somebody who does our taxes, but majority of solopreneurs don't have a bookkeeper. And that's okay, because technically you don't have that many transactions, but also that means that you don't have the basic knowledge of what records should look like. Do you have a P&L? Do you know what I've met people who don't even know what a P&L
I don't even know what a
is.
P&L is.
Profit and loss statement.
Okay, well,
So we have
I've never heard it called that. I know what that is. I've never heard it called that.
But it's an abbreviation, right? Profit and loss, P&L.
Yes, I see that now. Yes.
All right. So we have two main financial statements that any business owner should look at and know what knows the numbers on it. There's the profit and loss statement, which shows your total revenue. It shows the total amount of money that you spend on your product. So if you have a physical product, it's your like cost of goods. Most people should know what that is. And then there are other expenses, also known as overhead. This is your software subscriptions, any subscriptions really. If you have any contractors, any in-house labor, insurances, all of those, that's your overhead expenses. Now, when you take and all of that is reflected on profit and loss. You have your revenue minus your cost of materials, which gives you profit. And then minus the overhead expenses, it gives you net income. This is what your actual income, cash-wise, looks like. Now, the second report is balance sheet. The difference is that profit and loss basically shows you your cash values and transactions during the month. The balance sheet shows you your loans and assets. Any assets that you have, it could be a fancy computer, your equipment, if you are manufacture anything, your tools, and then your loans, so your liabilities, any notes you have to friends or a bank, anybody you borrowed money from, if you have leased equipment, or anything that you put on the lease, that will show up there. And what it does is it shows you the value of your company, the equity that is in your company, which is the value of it. So if you have no liabilities, you have assets, and you have profit or income on your profit and loss, you're going to be in the plus, and you will have positive equity. So if you ever sell your company, or if you want to borrow, if you decide to grow and you need funds to borrow from the bank to invest in your growth, this is what the bank looks at, is how much equity is in your company.
Okay, so having said that, I'm going to say two things that are probably controversial. Number one is you can hire all of this out. I don't like the tediousness of sitting down and putting all the numbers in. It doesn't matter if it's on a computer or if I'm doing it on a ledger. I don't like that tediousness of doing it. And so I love having a CPA. And if you get a good one, and I don't know, maybe it's because I'm in a small town, but mine did inventory, payroll, they did all the things, even including everything that had to be turned into the state or the IRS. All I did was just go over, sign. They actually even stamped it and put it in the mailbox. I just walked to the neighbors and signed to the building next to mine and just signed all the things. But let's talk a little bit more about finance. And this is going to be the part that everybody's like, no, no, no. But here's the thing. And I've done this with 9 businesses. And let's just start by saying you cannot build a business online without money. Throw that out the window. If you thought that, you're wrong. And I don't care to call you out on that. You can't do it. It's an investment. You're investing, and it should be the same as you would invest in yourself. The same as you're investing in a brick and mortar business. It just costs money. Okay, so when I started a business, my husband and I don't believe in debt. and that means that we lived in our car on multiple occasions to save money. Okay. I live in $1 million home. So I'm not saying this frivolously. Okay. When we got married, we lived in my car in a cow pasture, saved enough money to rent without having to go borrow money for down payments and all the things. We had a weird start. Anyways, another point, we lived in Park City. If anybody is familiar with Park City, Utah, the rent 30 years ago was $3,500 a month for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. Now, I was making really good money waitressing, but I didn't want to spend all my money paying rent. And so instead, we paid cash for a small camper put on the back of my husband's truck, and we paid $300 a month at the camp park and at the campsite. And we lived in a camper on the back of his truck, myself, my husband, and a child. Okay. Because we don't believe in going in debt, and we always believe that we should be able to live way below what we make. So when I start a business, I take X amount of dollars. Let's just talk about Chicken Lips, because that was a recent one. So Chicken Lips is an upscale boutique downtown, and I bet you're not going to forget that name. It's LIPZ, just so you know. We started with $250,000. We bought the building, we renovated the building, we stocked inventory. We had enough money to pay all the bills for the business for 1 year. We opened on February 14th. We had enough money to pay the bills that we knew of for 1 year, plus the 20% that my dad told me you always have to have 20% because you don't know if something's going to happen. So we had that 20%. And the bills included having employees. Okay. And so all that money in there. And guess what happened? I never thought about money again. I didn't think about it for the whole year. I got to work building relationships. I jumped in and started building relationships with my clients. I was relaxed in myself, knowing that I didn't have this like, oh my gosh, I have rent next week, or I have power coming up. I have to save money for this. I have to make sure I make this sale. I'm going to have to lower my prices to be able to do this. No, don't put yourself in that situation. Put a better foundation under yourself, even online. Know that you're going to have to come in. It's going to cost you about X amount. Do your research. I don't know what business you're in. Do your research. Find out how much it's going to cost you to start, and then come in with that so that you're buying yourself the mental freedom to actually be present in your business and build your business. Because at the end of the day, you are your business. You've got to put your face and voice out there and get seen and heard. And if you can do it in a relaxed manner where you're not stressed because you have bills, then so much the better. But what happens is the end of the year, every year for 7 years, I had that business. We look at the books. I'm like, oh, good, we can stay in business. Okay. And then you move forward, right? But you really have to consider that it takes money. And if you can do it, I've had people say, clients say, I'm just going to quit. I hate my 9 to 5. I'm just going to quit it and start this. And I know it'll be a struggle. I'm like, girl, no, do not do that. Do not ever do that. Stay there. Develop some self-discipline. Stick to it and save your money so you have enough money to get you through at least a year. And then quit and go do your thing. Right? Does that make sense? Does anybody have any thoughts or want to tell me that that's not going to work?
First off, good job to your dad for telling you to set 20% aside, because when people dump it all into the business, they don't realize that there's going to be more that they're going to need to dump into the business. So great job on that. I just wanted to say to Olena, a lot of people don't do, in my experience, in my community, when I have entrepreneurs that have not looked at their numbers, first of all, they won't tell you that they haven't looked at them. But secondly, if you can get past that, it's because they don't want to know. They're like, I know it's not making any money yet. I know that at the end of the year, I'm gonna have to turn some stuff in for taxes, but I don't want to look at, like I don't want to look. And how can we help people? Like I love it. I love doing QuickBooks. I have set aside time on Fridays, twice a month where I'm like, ooh, that's my QuickBooks time, and I love it. But also, I mean, for me, today I'm making lots of money, which is fun. But when you're not making lots of money, for people to convince people, you got to look at your numbers. You got to keep a P&L, and P&L is a common term, but profit and loss, for those of you who've never heard that before, you've got to be able to track that and see where you are to have confidence in where you're going. What advice would you give people who are like, I can't, I'm out?
I find in most cases, people who don't want to look at the reports, they don't understand them. And just learning more what these numbers mean and where they come from and how they reflect in your business. Business owners actually get excited to know their numbers because they understand where they're coming from and what the effects are. That's one of the possibilities. The other possibility is, our personal relationship with money. We cannot be, especially as business owners, we cannot be afraid of it. Money is our friend. This is our resource. It's our resource, and it's not necessarily our value. A lot of people assign their own value to how much money is in their bank account. I don't think that's always a proper reflection. When you're starting out, you're not going to have a bunch of cash in your bank account, but it doesn't mean that your personal value diminishes it. You're building, you're in the process of building. The reflection of it might coincide in a couple of years or so, but it's not one of the same. So a little bit more education, a little change in the mindset, what money is, and can go a long way.
I agree with that. And I think that I've sat down when we were raising our children and taught them that money is just a tool. It's literally just a tool. You have different problems when you have lots of money. You still have problems, right? And so when people realize and understand that it's just a tool, it's like, it's like eating a cake, right? Like you can jump in and eat the whole cake, and guess what? Tomorrow you have no cake. Or you can take it and you can eat just a little bit, and you can save some and maybe even take some and put it in a freezer container and freeze it, and you have it for later. But where are you going to be in your mindset and your value as a person when you're not worried about that? And that's a big deal. The greatest day of our life was when our daughter actually acted on what we taught her about money and built a home. She is 27 years old. Her house, she has a 2,000 square foot home that she paid cash for. Her and her husband built themselves, and they paid every step of the way. And I'm talking about they went in the woods and cut down the trees and built a home. They started from nothing, and now they're 27, 28. They have this beautiful home that's paid for, and so just understanding that money is a tool. And I think that when you have that understanding, it disconnects the emotion from it. The difference in my family, the way I was raised, my husband, the way he was raised, is they never had enough, and they didn't budget it in any sort of way. They got it, they spent it. They got it, they spent it. And so it was always a point of contention in their family. And in my family, we never talked about it, but we knew that there was money there to do things, and we knew there was a budget in place. For instance, my mom, and I'm old, so for everybody that's younger than me thinking about this, my mom took we had $20 clothing budget every month for the kids. And there were 4 kids. And so every 4th month I got $20. Now $20 bought me a pair of Nike shoes. I mean, this was a long time ago, but we knew how to budget because we watched that. We watched them tithe, and we watched these things happen. And so I wasn't afraid of money, but we never talked about like how much money they have or how they're making interest or things like that. We did know that they had rentals and businesses and helped work in those also. Carl, you have a question.
Yeah, it wasn't really a question, but it was talking about the money thing. I think a lot of people have a misconception of what money is. Okay. I've been so broke that I couldn't afford to pay attention. I mean, I've been there. Okay. But there was a series a while back, and I actually downloaded the whole thing because I used to share it with clients. It was a fellow by the name of Glenn Stearns. He's a billionaire and he made a lot of money, and he wasn't sure whether or not he made it by luck or was it his intelligence. He really didn't know. So he had his company give him $100 and drop him in a really, really poor town. And he wanted to see if he could create a $1 million business in 90 days. I'm not going to tell you the end because you got to look it up. It's called The Undercover Billionaire, and it's a great series. But he took $100 and he created a business. He did not make the $1 million, but it came close. But it just showed what you can do with money. And money is nothing more than pictures of dead people until you use it. So people who start making money after not having any and then they hoard their money, it does them no good. I mean, you have to invest in your business. You have to invest in yourself to make that money make money. But if you just hold on to it, I'm just like you, Coleen. I've had a credit card since I was 18, and I'm older than water now, and I've never paid 1 penny interest on a credit card. I hate paying people money for money. Now, there are times when you have to do that. And in business, sometimes you have to do that. You need to leverage it. But whenever you can, if you've got the money, for heaven's sakes, don't borrow the money. Go use what you have. Otherwise, it's just pictures of dead people,
That's so funny that you mentioned that because my dad actually taught me the credit card trick, right? Like how to use your credit cards and pay them off before interest hits. But remember when they started doing cash back on some of the cards? And so my dad got up to where he was getting thousands of dollars back each month. And guess what they did? They canceled his card because he wasn't paying any interest, and they were ended up paying him thousands. And when I say he literally went and bought a car on his credit card, like here you go,
I never had one canceled for that, but
and then turned around and paid it off. But he was very tricky that way, and I love that he taught me one of those things. And that was before I moved out of the house,